New favorite project alert. When I make them for me and not for a video, they always tend to turn out the best. I needed a palette cleanser, and so this project began, as so many of them do, with this particular bin from my top shelf. All kinds of random junk saved away for a rainy day like this. Last week, scrolling through my news feed, this image appeared, and then I saw this funnel and put two and two together. For these circular roof shingles, I took an office hole punch and some cardstock and went to town. Steps like these are rarely fun, but a podcast in the background makes things go much quicker. Just for good measure, I want to really solidify all these and seal them in, so I'm going to water down a little bit of Elmer's white glue and give all these a nice solid coat and give that overnight to dry. Meantime, to my right, up on this shelf, I keep my little drawer unit with all my beads and gems and stuff like that. A couple of these sets have some real nice ornate carvings to them, so I spent a few minutes brainstorming and then attached them all together, mounting them with a wooden dowel. I managed to find that source image again, and I'm going to try to replicate this pedestal. Over here in the largest part of it, I can see some archways, and that got me to thinking, back to that bin again for an orange juice cap. These are awesome, built-in Gothic arches. Let's prime it. Shazam! And then a bit of recreational geometry, the best kind of geometry, to come up with the parts that stick out. Smaller circles with crescent cutaways of the main part of the pedestal. Once again, from that little drawer unit, I've got these $2 packs of beads. I probably get to the craft supply store like once a month, and anything $2 or under, I'll buy a bunch of. Never know when it'll come in handy. I decided to make the top a little more interesting. I'm no expert, but Elven architecture, as it is traditionally presented, usually has lots of curves involved. So that's what I did here. This is graphics medium chipboard. It's the very thick stuff you'll find at the back of a legal pad, but you can buy it in bulk like I do if you want. There's links in the video description below. Anyways, I snipped a curve template and mirrored it for the other side, and I'll just have these channels. This bauble caught my eye at the craft store, and I bought it, saving it again for a day just like this one. I'm going to nip away some of the unnecessary bits, and this will be a perfect topper for the cone roof thing. Alright, I got my major components here. I know it's going to be tight quarters, so I affixed them all and go prime them now. I used God's Gift to Humanity Rust-Oleum 2X Flat Gray Primer. And I think the purpose of this shrine will be that it houses a book of some kind of knowledge. So using that same family of beads, I whipped up a little Podium, which matches a traditional 28mm miniature height. A few months ago, during my Build Baldur's Gate series, I did a building roof and I really liked the way the color on that one came out, so I'm going to duplicate it here. I have a sky blue and a mint green. I mix those 50-50 and do a solid base coat, actually 2 watered down coats for smoothness. And then some teal ink and matte medium mixed 50-50, no water in the mix so that it doesn't run down, and stroking upward so that the darkness nestles underneath all the shingles. We'll let that dry. For the foundation, I'm again trying to match that image, so I started out with a light gray, and the stone has sort of a rose tint to it, so I tried a very watered down magenta wash. This ended up looking awful, and I've been down this road before. Rather than waste my time obsessing trying to recreate the inspirational image, I'm going to pivot and just go my own way. Territorial beige. Nice tan solid base coat, and then a peach fleshy color. I'm going to sponge this on, stippling it, making it speckled like granite or stone, followed by a healthy wash with Army Painter Mid Brown. Army Painter is a friend of the channel. Their washes are on point. It's going to tie this together beautifully, introduce some messiness, and it remains well tinted, well saturated. That's hard to find in an acrylic wash. For the pillars, I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to get a little spicy here. I want a deep, burnished, elven red gold. So I'm going to take hammered copper and glorious gold and mix them 50-50. And I apply this with an airbrush. It's just so much easier. Best tool that I own. Other than my hot glue gun, I could not live without my airbrush. And after that's dry, I gave it a nice, healthy wash with Army Painter Flesh Tone. Not the brownish dark tone, but the flesh tone. My hope is this will further help enhance that deep red burnished look. And once that was dry, I went back to the straight up glorious gold to pick out a few details, some of the filigree in these beads. This is the kind of step I would normally not think to do, or would, but skip anyway, but again, I needed a palette cleanser, so I took my time. And hey, that roof is all dry now, so let's break out a sherbet green and dry brush only upwards. Pick out the edges of all those circular tiles. What else? Oh, the book. We need the book. I've covered books in a few videos before. I'll put cards on the screen, but real quickly, cut a small bit of cardstock for the outside, and I'm going to paint this one green. And for the bulk of the books, I don't do individual pages. I use, again, graphics medium chipboard, which is nice and thick. I've also got some thin printer paper. This is like the lightweight, plain old printer paper. And I'm going to take two thin strips and sort of pinch them in between the two main chunks that make up the bulk of the pages. So these will sort of flare out and help sell this little bit even more as looking like a book. It'll read more like a book. Anyways, I white glued that into the pedestal. And glued the pedestal to the foundation. This is the first bit of assembly. It then occurred to me that this is a magical elven shrine. It'd be nice to have some illumination, and I want to further sell that burnished, warm feeling that elven magic should have. So I quickly whipped up a little lighting circuit. I won't go into gory detail here because I've done it many times on the channel before, but for this I selected those amber colored LEDs. Not the yellow ones, not the white ones, but the amber ones. And I'm using two of them. I want a bit of strength to this light. I also airbrushed the interior of the dome with more glorious gold. Hopefully this amplifies and reflects that amber light. And while the glorious gold was in the airbrush and I still had it wetted, I went ahead and blasted some cardstock, the inside of a cereal box. I'm about to cut very thin strips out of this, and rather than have to paint them later, I'm just painting the cardstock now. And I'm not going to worry about the freshly cut edges, because brown cardstock is close enough to gold that you won't really notice. So yeah, I cut various strips and just super glued them onto the dome, and then happily topped it off with that cool bauble from the craft store. Now, being an elven shrine, I would think this would be in a forest, somewhere green and nature-ish, so I'm gonna nature the hell out of this thing. I brought forth all guns to bear, took out all the greenery and little nature stuff from my collection that I rarely use. And with little or no thought, I just started gluing things on. As I did, it was amazing how things started to come together. It really started to bring this to life. I found opportunities to cover up cracks between where parts met, and even that frond sticking up behind the book makes a really cool sight when you're looking at it from the reader's point of view. Now that I've hopefully given you something of value, I will now ask if you could please like and, more importantly, subscribe. And hey, if you really like this, check out some of my backlog, and then if you want, check out my Patreon. I don't like doing this. I normally don't shill for engagement, but I have 130,000 subscribers, but my Patreon is about $120 a month. That is orders of magnitude less than my exact peers, and it's fine. It can stay that way. I'm just saying. I guess it speaks to the power of self-promotion or whatever. So if you're liking this stuff, please support the channel in any way that you can, even if it's a click or a comment, so that I can continue to be able to make more videos in the future. So yes, indeed, this is probably one of my top 3 favorite projects of all time. It came out of nowhere. I hadn't intended to do a video on it. I just needed occasional breaks from working on Neon Sky's fulfillment, and I have been longing to get back into D&D lately. Again, that Kickstarter has just been all-consuming. Thanks so much for watching. I am Wylock, make things, play games.